Good morning.
Morning.
Today, a lot of people have been asking us about Resident Welfare Association Handover-Takeover. So that is what we call as RWA HOTO. We'll be discussing about the scope, we'll be discussing the type of audit that we perform and the detail of audit that we perform. We've been doing this for a while, so we'll use all the experience that we've had and whatever we've done on site, and when we discuss with our customers, we'll take our viewers to an understanding of what an RWA HOTO audit is. So if you can explain the thought process and how we came about doing a RWA HOTO audit.
Initially, when we were doing regular inspection for the flats, then a lot of owners saw our depth of inspection. Then when the project was about to be taken over by the association, that time many of the flat owners who had taken our inspection, they proposed to the management committee, why not we get things inspected before we take over from the builder, so that we don't get into any issues later on when we start running the facility. That's how we just got it.
When you say about individual customers, you're talking about a home inspection that we were doing earlier.
Exactly.
So our home inspection customers over a period of time saw the value that we added, and they asked us if we could perform an audit not only for the particular apartment but also outside the four walls of their particular. So what is it that interested them for us to perform an RWA?
They had already taken our inspection for within the flat, so they had seen the thoroughness which we inspect, and also the depth in which we go, and the technicality. We don't miss any point, and the technicality involved is quite high, which they could never imagine. For example, for a normal 2000 SFT flat, we were inspecting nearly 1,500 checkpoints, which they could never imagine.
When you say SFT, you mean square feet.
Square feet.
So that is the area. So this is, we are talking about inside the four walls of an apartment. So because we were doing such an in-depth audit, they also wanted us to do a similar in-depth audit for outside the four walls. That is how we came about.
Exactly.
Okay, so could you then now explain to our audience the various points that we cover in a RWA HOTO audit, meaning Resident Welfare Association Handover-Takeover audit, handover from the builder, taking over by the association.
Yeah, when we started doing this inspection, first we were approached to check all the civil engineering aspects. So there we used to check for all the incomplete works, improperly finished works, and any the damages for the civil part of it, like the plastering, the block work, and any cracks we used to check. And we also check for the hidden dampness in various areas, especially in basements. Basements are a real pain point for them, and there are a lot of leakages. So then gradually we expanded our operations to MEP. MEP means mechanical, electrical and plumbing.
Before you go to MEP, we have a lot of people who ask us about if we do a structural analysis or a structural audit. Can you help clarify this jargon that a lot of people use? What is it that it means technically as a structural audit, and what a normal person or a normal parlance, what does the structural audit entail?
See, normally in a common parlance, when they talk structure, they mean the building. But for us, the civil engineers, when we go in depth, structure is the skeleton basically, the columns, the slabs, that is called as structure.
Columns is what people call as pillars.
Pillars.
So column is the technical term for normal parlance pillars.
Pillars.
Please continue.
So when they say structure, they mean the building, but actually when you go in depth, it is columns and slabs. So when you talk about the structural audit, so many people do not realize that you may have to recheck the column design per se, and the slab per se, slab design. So when you do the rechecking of the column design, the slab design, and the building design as a whole, is as good as redesigning the whole building starting from scratch. That will cost exorbitantly high, because when there's already in any building, to start with, the designing cost is one of the major costs. So for a resident who are going to stay there, I don't think it's worth redoing the whole thing. So what I tell them is, when we do our audit, we go through each and every corner of your apartment common area, inside, outside, everywhere. So at that time, we also check for any cracks and, more importantly, any signs of distress. We call it as signs of distress because if there is any problem in the designing part, then it shows up in some symptoms. So being in this construction industry, having done so many buildings, we know where things can start crumbling. So with that knowledge, if there is any distress, is there any failure in design, we can immediately spot it and we can bring it to their knowledge. Then only they are required to go in depth if be required.
So when you say signs of distress, it could be a major crack on a compound wall, it could be a major crack on a column, or it could be a crack on the ceiling. Visually, how does this look different from a crack that is not distressed?
See, the cracks can come in various forms. Something could be just a plastering cracks. So due to improper curing or shrinkage of cement mortar or improper water cement ratio while working, all these things cause small cracks. So they are superficial and it is restricted only to the thickness of the plaster. So beyond that, so usually this will be within about a millimeter or so of the width, the crack width. And the pattern of the crack is a science by itself. Being in this industry, we'll be able to judge it.
So based on the experience of our engineer who goes to site, having visited so many apartments and having seen so many projects, that is their intellectual property that they bring forth, and the experience that they have gained that they bring forth to be able to understand this.
Correct.
So this is the cracks and distress that we talk about. Now we'll talk about other parts that we do in the civil engineering audit. We were talking about civil parts. Is there anything else that we check in civil apart from the distressed signals that we have been looking for?
Yeah, one is the incomplete works. Many times we observed that some of the works would not have been completed. So like block work, many times the block work is done and it has not been plastered.
When you say block work, for the layman, what is a block work?
Earlier we used to use the brick for the wall building. Nowadays we use the blocks for the concrete block for building the walls. So we generally call it as a block work. So when the block work is done, they would not have done the plastering properly. Many times it will be missing, especially the shafts, the inside of the shafts, they would have left out plastering part, and sometimes even the outside external areas where compound walls, especially compound walls, some corners which are not seen from inside, they would have left out, and they would not have built the wall properly. So all these things, they come under incomplete works or improperly.
So we actually check every square inch of the public area for a RWA HOTO audit.
Exactly.
What are the areas? Because people always say, do you check the shaft? Do you check the common pathway? Do you check the roads? So what is it that we cover? Can we go from the bottom to the top?
Yeah. We start with basements basically. Many apartment complexes have multiple basements. So sometimes even up to 3 basements. So we start from the basement, the lowest part. So there we check for the cracks and the dampness. And usually in basements we come across a lot of seepages, the water oozing from bottom. So we check for the proper drainage, whether there is a proper arrangement made so that there will be no flooding, and all the oozed out water will be analyzed to one particular place and then pumped out. We check all that. Then we check for the upper basements. So there again we check for whether the ventilation is okay, the lights is okay, and also then we go for the next top level, the podium. Podium is a place where the basement ends and the traffic movement area is there, where the towers are independently standing. So the podium area we check. In podium area we check for the proper the flooring or the cobblestone what they have done, and the side drains, and the the garden area, and we also check for any common amenities. So there I'm just talking about the civil engineering aspects.
Correct.
There will be some transform.
We've not yet gone to the MEP part.
We'll go to that later. So after the podium, then we enter into the tower area. In tower area, we start with the lobby, the entrance lobby. Then we check for the passages in the staircase at every tower. So there will be multiple staircases. We check all the staircase area for the steps, the walls and other things. And then at every floor, we check for the passages in between the flats. So we check for the common passages. And as we go up, we check for the swimming pool. Sometimes swimming pool will be in podium level, or sometimes it will be in the upper floor. So there again we check for the swimming pool area, and then we check for the clubhouse.
What we check will come later. So these are all the various areas that we check. So essentially we are checking every part which is not within the four walls, like you said. Do we also check the different shafts that are there, the electrical shafts, the plumbing shafts, all of that?
Yeah, we check for all the plumbing shafts, electrical shafts at every floor level. There will be some opening. We just peep into it and then take a look into it, whether the plastic has been done properly, is there any leakage, seepage, all those things we check. Then as we move up, then we go to the terrace. So in terrace, there are a lot of places to be checked. One is the lift machine rooms. So there will be separate rooms for the lift, the machines which are installed, the winches, and all those things. Those rooms we check. Then there will be overhead tanks. We check all the overhead tanks for proper fixing, any leakages, seepages, any cracks in the walls. Many times the walls are cracked, there will be a lot of leakages. We check for the overhead tanks. Then we come for the regular terrace area for the terrace finishing, whether the slopes have been properly done, is there any stagnation of water which is draining out, and any cracks and any improper finishing of the waterproofing layer that has been done. And more importantly, we check for the parapet walls. Most of the times we find that parapet walls have problems because nobody goes there.
Nobody goes checks to the height of it and checks all the different things. So we were talking about the terrace part. We were talking about the parapet wall. So could you please explain a bit about the parapet wall and why it's important?
Yeah, the parapet wall is very important because one is it acts as a barrier for the water to not to spill over and direct the water towards the drainage parts. There will be drainage pipes where the water should get channelized and then it should go out. And usually the parapet, if they don't maintain proper height, that becomes a safety concern also because many people, the kids sometimes will be going to the terrace. And all these lightning arrestor strips which conduct the lightning arrestor current to earth, they are usually channelized on the coping of the parapet. Coping is the top part of the parapet wall. So many times they would not have done it properly. So that also requires to be checked.
The parapet wall needs to be sloped inwards towards the terrace, not outwards towards the outer wall.
Building wall.
Building
Yes.
wall.
That is to avoid the water streaking down on the surface, which will cause the fungus and then the black marks will be caused due to rainwater. That's the reason it should be sloped inside so that the water comes inside and then gets drained away.
Right.
That is one thing. And secondly, in terrace there will be a lot of the signage boards. Usually all apartments will have their apartment name and other things done in a big neon signage sometimes, and they will have a lot of steel structure holding the signages. Many times those structures would not have been done properly, first of all, and if done properly they would not have been properly painted, and if painted also many times the clamping and the fixation would not have been done properly. Many times you observe that precariously kept there.
We also check for the welding part of all of these supports for the various parts that is over and above the terrace.
Yes.
So that is the depth of work that we perform. So now we've been talking about the civil quality check. Now let us move to MEP. What is it that we do in MEP? And let us define what MEP stands for.
Yeah. MEP stands for mechanical, electrical and plumbing. So when I say mechanical, it includes all the lifts, elevators, pumps and those things. Electrical, obviously, it's about the electricity. And plumbing is about the pipeline pipeline not only carrying the fresh water inside, but also the used water, what you call as sewage water that is going out. All this piping are covered in the plumbing.
This is called grey water and black water.
Yeah.
Could you explain what grey water is and what black water is?
Yeah, when we talk about plumbing, the sewage part, the water that is not totally polluted, like the bath water, any washed water from the kitchen sinks, all that are termed as grey water. They are not so much polluted. But whereas the discharge from the commodes, all the other parts, they are all termed as black water. And also sometimes these pipes carrying the black water are also called as the soil pipes. Soil in engineering term means the excreta.
So all of this then goes into what we call as the STP.
Exactly.
Okay. So let us look at, since we're talking about pipes and plumbing, let's continue with the same topic. So we have all this black water and grey water which comes down into the plumbing pipes, various pipes, and then goes into the STP. So let us talk about what we check in STP in terms of the quality audit and in terms of the design audit and in terms of operation and maintenance.
See, in STP, it will be usually housed in a big room.
STP stands for?
Sewage treatment plant.
Okay.
And many times people misnomer, or they call it as ETP also. ETP stands for effluent treatment plant, and ETP is used in industries where some chemicals will be used, are there, which have to be neutralized. They call it as effluent treatment plant. But in case of domestic application, we call it as sewage treatment plant. So in sewage treatment plant, usually there will be a big enclosure or a room. So from the civil engineering point of view, we check for the wall finishing, cracks, dampness, other things, and bottom floor, whether the floor slopes are okay, so that any spilled out water, the cleaning water, those things get drained out and not cause a stagnation and slippage for the operators who are there. That is civil part in STP. So coming to the mechanical part, so there we check for whether the facility is following the proper process from different tanks. It's a big scheme by itself. There are many types of STPs like MBR, SBR. When I say MBR, it's a moving bed reactor, and SBR is sequential batch reactor. Let us not get into the technicality.
We've made another video where we've talked about the various aspects of an STP. So you can take a look at that. We will put the link below in the description.
Yeah. So without going to the technicality of the process, basically STP what it does is collects the sewage from all the discharge points like all toilets. Then that is treated in such a way that it is dischargeable in a safe manner. So if you want that to be potable, that is also possible. That it requires a tertiary treatment. So normally bring down all the pollutants to a particular acceptable limit, then it is discharged to a separate finishing tank.
So how does this differ from a water treatment plant?
Water treatment plant is used for the fresh water what comes in, what is to be consumed for drinking or bathing and those things. So there they check for the amount of solids in that, and amount of when the solids or the dissolved solids, they cause the hardness. So those things are removed.
So your alkalinity is checked, the amount of various chemicals that are there, if there is any E. coli, if there is, all of this is made sure it is tested, and then based on the particular water type, a WTP or a water treatment plant is set up. So we also have another video about water treatment plants where we talk about setting up your water treatment plant should be based on the type of water that is available for you at your particular location. Please refer to the link below, we'll talk about that also. So it should not be a generic water treatment plant. The water treatment plant should be designed for that particular type of water that is available, because obviously today people are going for borewell water, people are going for water that's available locally that's been shared, and also if you're lucky, if in Bangalore you have Kaveri supply. So based on that you have the water treatment plants. Okay, so you have your STP, you have your WTP. So this we not only check for the civil part, as you said, for the housing, but also we look at the mechanical operations which you check. What about operations and maintenance?
See, the operation maintenance of an STP depends on the knowledge of the operator, because these are all, many people think that some chemicals are added and the sewage is treated. No. The sewage is treated by, again, anaerobic bacteria. It's just like our human gut system.
Correct.
So the anaerobic bacteria which are cultured and grown there, they digest the sewage and then it is treated. Then for other parts, some different chlorine may be added in the end part. So those things people should understand. If the operator is educated enough, he knows how to treat the sewage. It is not a continuous process. It requires human intervention, like any part. Like they have to check at periodical interval and take the corrective measures, and then see that the output is of an acceptable quality.
Quality and level. So, and also we also need to make sure that the air exchange within the STP is done sufficiently, because people who go in there are not harmed. So could you refer to that, please?
See, the STP is normally they are located in the basements because of the space constraint, or in a desolated place where there is not much of a air movement. And STP, by its own action, it produces a lot of gases which are not good for human health.
Because of the bacteria that
Digestion process.
So bacteria are basically eating the food and producing what shall I say, something from their own system.
Yeah, those gases are obnoxious, so it affects the health of the people who are working there, first of all. So people may just talk about the smell. Smell is one part of it, but if it really produces some poisonous gases like carbon monoxide or methane, for example, so they are quite fatal for the operator. So there has to be a very good ventilation system inside. So the ventilation system should be able to suck out all the discharged or the produced gases out there, take them and throw it out at a topmost point. There's one more thing I observed in many places. They discharge the outlet in some intermediate level, so that the flags in those levels get the obnoxious smell. But that is not to be done. This discharge has to be taken to the uppermost point, and then only the chimney stack is to be placed, and then only it will discharge.
So
I'll just complete this. So one part is making the environment safe. You talk about the air exchange or air changes. So when we talk about air changes, so the room contains one particular volume. So there are pollution control norms. How many times the air volume has to get changed? So if it has got about 50 cubic meters of space there, so there will be evacuation pumps which are working, and also we should have proper passage for the fresh air to enter. So the available air should get totally changed in a particular time. That is called as air changes. So about 20 to 30 air changes are required per hour. So for the people to normally stay there safely and operate without any complaints. So that has to be ensured. So that is very important. The ventilation system in an STP has to be meticulously operated and maintained.
You mentioned that the exhaust is sometimes let out in not at the topmost part. There are norms and these need to be followed. So somebody doing this are not following norms. That is illegal, wouldn't you say?
Yes, it is.
That is one. Second thing, we also have seen cases where people let out sewage which is untreated, or even water that is a byproduct of your STP into the drain. Would you comment on that?
This is illegal, to tell you something. See, the sewage which is treated. So when you get the treated water outlet as output, that has to be an acceptable limit. But basically, the pollution control board or any state pollution control authorities, they give you two certificates. One is certificate to to place the setup system there, that is for commencement, and then for operations. So,
CFO and CFE.
Yes. So when the operations are started, we'll have to get the clearance from them so that they certify that things are okay, they can be operated. So here, the treated sewage water is not supposed to be let out in open drain. It's an illegal part, and I think there are some criminal procedure code sections, some 277, 278, I think that's going to be changed shortly, will be renamed. As per that, letting out sewage in open area or the untreated water to open area, it's a punishable offence.
Even treated water cannot be let out into the drain, isn't it?
The Pollution Control Board norms nowadays, it's very clear that you're not supposed to let out the treated water into open drain. The people are silent. They say that you should use this for gardening and flushing, so that they're circulated back into the system. Flushing part, it has to be used. So this is one of the major pain points in all the associations. To make them use all the treated water, it's a big challenge.
Recently, BAF, Bangalore Apartment Federation, and BBMP had a discussion. I read in the papers today that they will allow apartments to sell 50% of their output water for anything that is not related to medical or food consumption. So it can be used in construction, it can be used for, as you said, flushing, it can be used for other things. So that's a good step, I think, especially looking at the water situation in Bangalore today. Now we've covered STP, WTP. What other aspects are there in a MEP part of the HOTO audit?
Yeah, coming to the main part, like it starts with electricity. So the electricity that is supplied from the electricity board, in Bangalore we call it as BESCOM. So the electricity that is supplied from the electricity board, in Bangalore we call it as BESCOM. So electricity board, they supply in a high voltage, that's usually 11 kV we call it, 11,000 volts. So those supply lines from 11 kV tower line, they are to be brought down by using transformers to the operating voltage, that's 440 volts or 400 volts. That is the secondary line.
So this is what you talk about, HT and LT.
Yeah. So the 11 kV line is called as HT, it's high tension line, and then it is stepped down using transformers. It is called as secondary supply, that is LT, that is low tension line. So we have transformers. All the apartment complexes will have a transformer yard where the HT supply comes in and the LT supply goes out to the flats. So here the transformer is one major thing where we inspect for the proper installation has been done as per the norms, as per the electrical code. So even the inspectorate, electrical inspectorate is separate from electricity board. Electricity board is the one who supplies the power, but all the regulations have to be checked and monitored by electrical inspectorate. That's a separate wing as such. They are the one who inspect and give you clearance for operating all this electrical installations. So as per their standard, whether the transformers have been installed or not, that we are going to check, and then we also check whether the things have been maintained properly. See, many times what happens is there is a desiccant provided on the top of the transformer where the excess moisture in the transformer oil is drawn out. Many times that would not have been maintained. So we check those things, like we check for the installation, we check for the operational maintenance part for the electrical transformer yards. Then the secondary output, that is the LT, that goes to the electrical room. So where that gets distributed to different areas. One is the flats. All different flats will have a different lines starting from electrical room, and then there will be common areas, all the street lights, the corridor lights, the terrace lights, and those things. And there will be common facilities like pump rooms. All those will get bifurcated from that electrical room. It goes to different places where the electricity is used. And even the metering is also done in the electrical room.
Now we've talked about the HT and LT. Let's talk about DG sets. When we have a short of power supply. So let's talk about DG sets, and in some areas we know that DG sets cover only 50%, and some parts they cover 100%. So let's talk about that also.
So from electrical room, as I said, the power is supplied to individual flats. So this is the power which is coming from the electricity board supply. So as a backup, there will always be a genset, diesel operated generator sets. So they will be provided. They pump the power to the electrical room. So there will be what is called ACCL, alternate current cutout light, where they supply from DG, supply from electricity board, they merge at one point, and whichever is the case, it gets supplied to all the other points. So this power which comes to that point is from the DG, diesel electrical generators, and DGs come in various capacities. This capacity of DG is dependent on what the builder has promised. See, like builder could have promised 100% backup, so where you can operate everything as if there is a power supply from the electricity board, that is 100% backup. In some cases, due to various constraints, they provide only 50% backup or 80% backup. That's the agreement between the buyer and the seller.
So when you talk about backup, it means the electrical appliances within the four walls of your apartment that can be run when there is a power failure and the DG set or the diesel generator set comes on. So if it is 50%, that means in most cases you can't use your AC, but you can use your lights and your fan and maybe your TV. But you can't run a high start motor. So you can't run maybe a mixie or something like that. Is that correct?
Exactly. There is a device fixed in the electrical room which, when there is a power supply from electricity board, it allows for the entire thing to be drawn to the full capacity. But when the power supply is from DG set, it will limit the current so that you can't use everything if it is not 100%. In case of 100% backup, there is no limitation. You can use everything, AC or your induction stove or geyser, everything can be used. Whereas in case if it is limited backup, then certain equipment will be limited. You can't draw the 100% power.
So that means to say that whenever we are doing an audit for our RWA HOTO audit, our design audit for this particular part, we will also check whether the particular DG set that's been provided, the STP that's been provided, the WTP that has been provided meets the requirements of that particular society. And we do this with the calculations that we have at hand by the National Building Code and Bureau of Indian Standards, and also if documents are given by the builder. Could you explain that for the general public?
Yeah. So far what I talked to you is about the electrical quality audit, whether things have been properly installed, whether the standards have been followed in the installation process. But when we talk about the design aspect, there is one more part of the audit. We call it as a design audit, where we check for different facilities, starting from DG set, STP, WTP. So we just calculate whether the design has been properly done, whether the facility that has been provided is adequate or not. For example, when you talk about the STP, if the total flat is, if the total apartment complex is occupied, as per National Building Code, there are certain parameters specified. What are the outputs? What are the maximum discharge that can be expected in an apartment complex? Using those parameters, we calculate the total water that is required, that is discharged. So, for water required, we use that parameter to find out whether the WTP provided is of sufficient capacity. And we also check for the storage capacity as declared by the, defined or prescribed by the National Building Code. For example, the underground sumps should have a catering for 1.5 days. That is 1.5 days requirement you should be able to store. That is the provision that has been made. We check for the adequacy of that. Then coming to the water that is used for STP. So STP from WTP, the input comes to the bathrooms or kitchen, and then the output goes to the STP. So considering all that, there are some parameters defined in NBC, National Building Code. So as per that, the total discharge from all the flats or the common areas is aggregated, and then we arrive at the total discharge. Then we calculate whether the STP provided can handle that or not. There are some scientific methods in which we calculate all this, and then arrive at the adequacy of the STP, okay or not.
So, do we also check anything to do with lifts or elevators?
Yeah. So after STP, we also check for the lifts and elevators. So there are certain parameters, like when we start using them, so it should be working smooth, without jerks, and without any abnormal noise. And also when there is something called as an auto rescue device, we call it as ARD. So in case of a power failure, the lift itself will have a small battery for emergency. So it will operate the lift so that it reaches to the next nearest floor and opens the door, so that the occupants can come out safely. That is called auto rescue device. And also there is an announcement which comes within the lift in case of any power failure. We check for all that, whether the announcement is happening properly, whether the auto rescue device is functioning properly. We check for all that.
What about fire safety? What is the aspect or what are the things that we check in a fire safety part?
See, fire safety is again defined in National Building Code.
Sorry, you may also want to explain to them that the fire safety norms are different for a building that is of a certain height and over 15 meters, over 45 meters. That clarity
Yeah,
also.
National Building Code defines the different fire safety measures that are required for different categories of buildings based on the height, the number of floors and all that. So as per that, see, certain buildings are categorized low rise, certain buildings are above 50 feet, that considered as high rise. So the facility that has to be provided, it depends on whether it's low rise, high rise, within high rise. Again, depending on the number of floors. So there are different parameters. As per that, we check whether the facilities have been provided as per that. And so fire safety involves two things. One is the fire alarm system, and other one is the fire suppression. Fire alarm system is about when there is a fire, the facilities people or the general public should get an alarm. So there are hooters, there are public address systems. When the hooters come in, the facility people will announce it on public address system. So they all come under fire detection and alarm system. So fire detection comes there will be smoke detectors and corners or in the remote areas. Even there are no people present, the smoke detectors will detect the smoke and give an alarm in the fire control panel, so that the facilities team can immediately go and attend to it and find out what next has to be done. So the fire alarm system is also checked. The public address system is also checked. See, there are many times what happens in fire alarm, there is something called addressing. So the fire detector, the smoke detectors are kept in basement, kept in near the lobbies. So when a particular smoke detector goes off or it start giving an alarm, in the fire control panel, it is to be properly addressed. So that when you call address, there will be a number associated. Immediately they should be able to read where am I getting this signal from.
Which a human readable format for a number associated with that particular maybe smoke detector or maybe anything else, so that the fire suppression system either manually or automatically can be addressed at that particular location, so that that particular incident is under control.
Exactly. Many times you find that those addressing is not being done. Yeah, you get an alarm, but you don't know where the fire is occurring.
You don't know the actual location because it's only a number.
Yeah, that's a serious lapse actually. So then we address that. And also coming to the fire suppression system, there are different kinds of fire suppression system, as I earlier mentioned. So it could be a sprinkler for basements, and for very high-rise buildings, the sprinklers are recommended for inside the flat also. So those things will also be checked. And there is a hose and reel system for certain levels. You get only hose and reel system where the hose and reel is kept in the common area next to the lift, so that we can open the cabinet, pull out the hose reel, take it inside the flat wherever there is fire. And those things are also checked, whether they're really provided, whether they're operational, is there any lapse in that. Many times we find that they give a cabinet,
There's nothing provided.
there is nothing provided. Or even sometimes the water wheels to open the water, that itself is missing.
Do we actually test and open the hose, open the water and spray it and check?
Yeah, we do it on a sample basis, because you can't break open everything and then check.
Correct.
On a sample basis whether it is operating. And also there is one more check, what is known as there will be a pump room, fire pump room. There will be different pumps there. So why different pumps? Because there is a jockey pump, main pump, hydrant pump, like that. So these pumps should kick in at a particular drop in pressure at a particular level.
At their moment's time, it should kick in.
Yeah, that's the design part. So we do check that also. Open a hydrant, when the pressure drops in the whole system at a particular level, the designated pump should come on. Whether it is operating or not, we check that, the pressure settings, all that we check.
So now we've talked about NAP, we've talked about the quality audit, we've talked about design audit. What about the documentation? So there is a certain aspect of documentation also in this. Can we explain to them what is the documentation of?
Yeah, when we talk about documentation, there are two levels of documentation what we check. So the basic level and in-depth level. So when I talk about the basic level, within basic level there will be two categories of documents what we audit. One is the statutory documents which the builder should hand over to the association.
For proper statutory documents.
Statutory, when I say statute, it's the government regulations. So there are like occupation certificate, the sanction plan, and consent for establishment and consent for operation given by the Pollution Control Board. So all these things they come under statutory documents. So we guide the association by providing a list of what all statutory documents they should obtain and keep it for further safekeeping. And the other part is all the technical documentation. When I say technical documentation, they are the drawings, the as-built drawings. When I say as-built drawings, see the builder would have made a starting good for construction drawing and start constructing that. And as the construction goes on, there will be some changes done en route till the completion. So those changes have to be recorded in drawing because for tomorrow, for maintenance purpose, we require these drawings. You want to find out where exactly the pipelines have been drawn, if you want to dig and repair them, and where exactly the cables have been drawn. Because originally they would have planned something, and during execution they would have, depending on the site condition, then a different kind of embedment. So those things will get reflected in as-built drawings. So we guide them and suggest that they should procure obtain from the builder all these drawings and keep them for safekeeping, for maintenance purpose. That is the basic cursory check of the documentation.
So we do the documentation. Finally, a lot of people ask us if we also help them with the legal documentation. What do we have to tell our viewers about legal documentation?
Exactly. The first question that comes into them. And usually when they say documentation, everybody thinks of the legal documents. So far we talked about the statutory document, the technical documents. Coming to the legal documents, we are an engineering company, so we do not deal with the legal documentation. Yes, there are ecosystem partners, there are law firms who are qualified and they know what to check in the legal aspect. There will be title checks, the title flow check, whether the title is defective, whether it is flown properly, are there any encumbrances. All those things they are checked by the legal firm. In such cases, we refer them to the legal firm.
Fantastic. The last topic. What about measuring the actual footprint of the complete property? There are projects in Bangalore which are 50 acres, 60 acres. Can we help the owners about the complete footprint of the project?
Yes, this is exactly part of what we do. Usually they claim, the builder would have given them a particular plot, say that it has got 30 acres and bound by a particular boundary. So they would like to know whether they have 30 acres exactly with them. So that we do by total station survey. So the boundary has to be shown to us. So it will be a tripartite joint measurement, we call it. So the builder's representative, the association representative, and our own representative. All the three people will mark the boundaries, and as per the boundaries agreed and shown, we measure the area and give them a report mentioning what exactly that has been observed. So that helps them to know what exactly they have in hand.
That's it. Thank you, Mr. Suresh. Thank you very much. I'd like to introduce Mr. Suresh. He's our Chief Operating Officer and he has over 45 years of experience in the field. And I am Uday. I'm one of the co-founders. I have about 25 years of experience in the field. And thank you for listening to us. We are Team Nemadi and we enable quality living.